In the fall of 2009, I made my first trip to Afghanistan. This is where I met Adam. Adam, or Private Ramsey as he was introduced to me, was a soldier of the 1st Battalion, 32nd Light Infantry Regiment, home to the 10th Mountain Division based out of Fort Drum, New York. When I met him in Afghanistan, Adam was a 21-year-old private. He operated the 240 machine gun and was a part of a smaller team in his platoon called the Weapons Squad. He often kept to himself, and unlike a lot of the guys, I never heard him complain. Early on, it became evident that Adam had problems. While we were in Afghanistan, he had nightmares and anxiety on a regular basis. In January of 2010, I traveled up to Fort Drum for the 10th Mountain Division's return home. At the time, I didn't have too many expectations. I knew that when the guys got back, they would drink and party and act wild and chase girls. And this is what I wanted to document, their first steps onto U.S. soil, the feeling of home. But when Adam got back, I noticed quickly that he was having problems and he was drinking a lot. So I decided to follow him on leave to his home in Carson City, Nevada. During his time on leave in Carson City, Adam started to confide in me. I found out quickly that before Adam entered the Army, he was addicted to pain pills and cocaine. He also told me that while in Afghanistan, he was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder by military mental health specialists. But after his diagnosis and a 2-week break at one of the bigger bases, he was sent back to the front lines to fight. The medications that were prescribed to him by the military were very strong. Antipsychotics, antidepressants, you name it. At one time, Adam was taking 13 prescribed medications. While we were in Carson City, Adam got worse. He began to self-medicate by mixing his prescription medications with alcohol and other drugs. He was hallucinating. He heard voices. He had nightly panic attacks and severe anxiety. And then, because of his distress, he began to cut himself. It was like watching a rope unravel before your very eyes, and you feel like there's very little you can do to stop it. On the night of February 13th, I got a phone call around midnight. It was Adam. He was drunk and upset. He told me that he wanted it to all be over, that he wanted to go to sleep and never wake up again. He told me that he was thinking about ending his own life. I asked him to wait for me before he made any decisions. The next day, I got in my car and made the 6-hour drive from New York City to Fort Drum. When I got to Fort Drum, Adam was in the barracks on a 24-hour security guard shift to watch the barrack hallways. I've never seen anyone more alone. In the morning, after getting very little sleep, we decided that the best thing for him to do was to check himself into the hospital to get help. I went with him when he checked in, and I sat with him in the patient room. After they evaluated him, they took him upstairs, put him in a wheelchair, and wheeled him off behind 2 double doors that automatically locked from the other side. At the time, I was the only person who knew where Adam was. His family, his friends, and the Army remained in the dark. Afterwards, I did not hear from Adam for about 2 months. He was upset with me because he felt like I had abandoned him. After a few months and dozens of phone messages, Adam finally called me back. And he was doing a lot better. He was getting a little more sleep. He cut down on his prescription med use. He stopped with the drugs and alcohol. And finally, one day we were talking, and he said, "Thank you. Thank you for helping me." While Adam was in the mental health hospital, he met a girl named Alicia. They started dating immediately and got married 3 months later. In January of 2011, Adam was finally released from the Army. It took exactly 1 year for him to get released after he reported his mental and emotional health problems. He got accepted into one of the nation's top schools for mechanics, and in January, he and Alicia packed their bags and moved down to North Carolina, where Adam started school. I know he still struggles. Every day he struggles with his depression and anxiety and what he had to see and do in Afghanistan. But I know that now he is willing to take a chance at life and face his demons. We've been through a lot together, and I anticipate seeing the many great things he will do in his life.